We back with full auto worm. With the recent changes to how many times we can attack the boss going from 3 to 5, and the recent buffs to units, it's time for all the guilds to get to worm 15. Now I have today for you a worm 1 through 7 team, as well as a worm 8 plus team. Now just a warning, the 8 plus team is consistent, but sometimes your team can troll you and decide not to counter the lava. I had about 2 out of 20 runs where they decided they just didn't want to counter the lava and just ate it instead. But once we get some better units later on, that becomes just trivial. So let's go ahead and check it out. For worm 1 through 7, this is the team that I'm going to be running for you guys. So let's go ahead and check it out here. So we're just going to go ahead and start off by throwing Jinbora out here with all of our tanks. Of course, Jushin's on full DPS here, and Linjian doesn't have a tank hands because we just want her on full CDR, so I'm just running her, you know, on a range res, which doesn't actually help. So they kind of get low, and it's a little scary looking, but honestly, it's a-okay. We're deploying healers. Chinatsu's amazing, so she's just gonna keep all of our team alive, and that's a-okay. Now we get the big heavy hitter here, Rosaria, out. She just death pins bosses anyways, so might as well get her out as early as we can. And then we also have a nice little, Marshmallow running up. Gonna be doing a bunch of true damage to the boss with her ultis, so that's awesome. Now that we have a good base setup, we're gonna sit here and start getting our debuffers out here so that we can actually death break this boss. And fortunately enough, until you get to worm 8 plus, you can actually debuff this boss, and the debuffs actually stick. They, without that status res that the boss gets after 8 plus for whatever reason, your debuffs actually last long enough to make a difference on it. So, but after that, we just spam as many of those Awaken as we can get onto the field here. Just all the OP Awakens that got buffed recently, and that's pretty much all it is. Just stack a bunch of debuffs. Now we get Lonely. We're gonna use her here because, well, the boss is a CO, so she's a 40% death break, which means that you don't have to run as many death breakers that you normally would, and that actually frees up a lot of slots for damage. So just works out here. And then now that we have everybody on the field, it's just a matter of blowing the boss up. And amazingly enough, this, even though we're on 2x, this still takes probably around 3 minutes to sit there and do normally. $47 mil in about 2 minutes time. Of course, we have all the big hitters up at the top, of course. With the teaming gear for this, most important is Jinbora. You're definitely going to need her. You do not need her on Swift. I'm just running her on Swift because I ran out of any other attack speed gear for Jinbora. But Swift definitely does help if you do have it. Linjian, we want on the fastest CDR that we can get her, and as tanky as possible with that CDR. Shiyoung can actually go full DPS gear. It's actually amazing. But you definitely probably want him on attack speed or some kind of HP. Nanahara, Chinatsu, we just have on full CDR. Same with Senjia, we just want her spamming her skills as much as possible. Rosa, we want on A speed, damage gear, stack as much as you can on her. Orca, we want on full CDR so she can spam her ultis and skills as much as possible. The bonus anti-CO damage is definitely going to help out here. Sky, we want on attack speed with CDR subs, or you want her just on full CDR. Agnes, we want on attack speed, full damage. Chifu can actually go on attack speed tanky, or honestly attack speed damage if you actually have it. I do not, so we went with attack speed tank. Dash, you can either go the same kind of gear setup as Sky with attack speed with skill haste subs, or you can just go full one or the other, attack speed or CDR. Now Sigma, you just want to put as much damage as possible on her. I have my CDR melee damage set, but that's not necessary. You could go full CDR on her if you wanted. Same with Kurian. Of course, you want him on full damage as possible, but a CDR set will be fine as well. Chris, you want on CDR. Probably the most important character to have on full Mage CDR, to be honest. You want her getting to her skill as quickly as possible. 76 CDR on her. Lonely, I have on kind of a hybrid. I'd put some tank on her because she gets rather close to the boss and that worries me. But she should be fine on pretty much any gear. And then Dorothy, I just have on my Swift set. Now, you can use Sinjia instead of Dorothy for more stability. I just went with Dorothy because Dorothy's cool. Now, for the operator, I just went with something with attack speed. As you can see, I cannot proc this operator, but that's fine. And then quad, I just used, you could use another ship, but since quad gives you death pin early in the fight, and then also helps with pushing the skills back of the boss, it's a rather solid ship to use. Alright, Wormmate, this is where it gets real here. So we're gonna go in now. I want to sit here and say that with the Shiyoung buffs that things have gotten better, and they have. They're a lot more consistent. Now, if you don't know, they just basically made where Shiyoung can have her counter up more often than before. So that kind of really helps because for whatever reason, the lava on this boss is considered a basic attack, and Shiyoung, all she does is counter basic attacks. So that really helps out here. Now, we want to sit here and set up all of our healers and such because this boss actually does hit pretty hard, so we want to make sure that we keep all of our front line alive and the rest of our team alive as well. So we're running triple healers here. Then obviously Linjian is going to be our DP battery, and so we have some timings that we want to sit here and try to get down. Shiyoung needs to come out and get her 4 attacks in before the lava happens, and then counter the lava. Now, Shiyoung can actually counter the lava as well, but he's countering a lot of other things from the boss, so that's not as consistent as you would hope it would be. But as you can see, the floor is lava, and we just don't care. We're just gonna sit here and fight the boss anyways. Now, on this boss, debuffs don't really help. I mean, they help, but they just don't last that long to be very effective. So we're trying to sit there and utilize either death pin mechanics or things that are permanent. So that's why I'm running Agnes and Chris here. Agnes will actually apply a permanent death break to the boss, so you don't have to sit there and worry about that falling off. And the same with Chris. Chris applies permanent damage amp to the boss. So with those two things on the field, you're going to sit there and increase your damage by a lot. Now, you can run Maria or Chifu here. And I'm running Maria because it just worked out. But you see that saw that just passed by? You need Hilde to come out after that saw, because that saw just trolls your team. Now, with the Alternium Reactor on Hilde, it puts 2 shields on your team so that when the boss does this burrow here, they don't die. Everybody lives. But the problem is that if a Hilde comes down too early, that Saw takes one of the shields off your team, and then there's a chance that people might die. So you want to sit here and have enough DP that, and time your skill haste on Lin Jian so that a Hilde's coming out after that Saw. And then after that, it's just sit back, watch, wait. Have everybody explode on the boss. Now, with Death Pin on your DPS characters, the Volcano set, you probably do a lot more damage to this boss. And this boss will probably get a lot more trivialized as we get newer units that have counter mechanics and such to it. I hear Eve is actually really good on this boss. But for now, we just cope with what we have for global. 23.5 mil. Not a terrible amount of damage. Alright, so for this team. Now, Shiyoung does not need full tank gear for this boss. Not normally anyways. So we're just running this on him because we don't have any DPS gear to spare him. Lin Jian, you want on tank CDR. Now, I have her on 76. You can go faster, but because of TUs and such, and I'm trying to time a Hilde coming out, I have her at 76. And that seemed to have worked for me. Now, for your supports, you're going to be strapped thin for CDR gear, so you want to sit there and take your CDR tanky gear and spread it out among all your supports so that they can actually sit there and tank some of the hits. As you can see, I do the same thing for Yang here, giving them a little bit of res. Rosaria, you want to put on as much DPS gear as possible. I have her on ranged Brita gear here, range attack speed. And as you see for Sinjia, the same thing. It's CDR, tank. Sky, I have on attack speed with skill haste subs. Her debuffs don't last that long, so I'm just trying to get her attack buff up as much as possible. Orca, we just have on full CDR here. The anti-CO damage helping out with her true damage on her ulti. Shiyoung. Now, Shiyoung is an interesting build. I have her on 26% attack speed with ground res. I want her living. Now, I found that this piece here made everything a lot more consistent with her being able to counter the lava. You might have to sit there and play with it a little bit to sit there and find what makes it consistent for you. For Yumina, we're just running full damage, attack speed, Death Pin set. Volcano probably does a lot better on her. I don't have that, so I cannot comment. Sigma, I just have on CDR, melee damage. Regular maze works just as well. Attack also works. As you can see here, I don't have Volcano gear for Korean. So, well, I don't have Death Pin Volcano gear. So we're just running him on attack, but CDR also works for him too. Agnes, I have on a hybrid tanky DPS build. As you can sit there and see here, even with a defensive ship and a defensive side skill, she was getting really close to dying. So I decided to put these hands on her just to make her more tanky. But probably in the later worms, I'd probably end up swapping these out for tank gear as well. Chris, we just want on full CDR. We want her spamming her skills as much as possible. And then for this, I'm using Maria because it worked out for me. Chifu's a lot safer to reuse, but they basically use the same gear, just full CDR. Granted, for Maria, I'm running the Challenger hands because her special, we want it doing as much damage as we get it to do. And then in Ahilda, you can honestly hit auto equip on and be fine, or just run her on full damage. She doesn't need tank stats, but I just went ahead and threw CDR gear on her because this is all that I had left. For the ship, I'm running Lake Superior because it's 130, and with the shields, it survives the worm pretty much at every level, but you can run an offensive ship instead. Quad is a good pickup. Quad, unfortunately, my quad is only level 100, so that's why I'm not using it. And then for the side skill, you want a defensive side skill on your operator. There's not really a good operator that procs on this fight, so you just want to focus on whatever you can for the side skill. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope this helps you with Worm. If you don't happen to have Awaken Shiyoung, you can run Ray instead. Hopefully someone can make Shiyoung a bit more consistent. I would be interested to see how we can get her to 100% counter the lava every time. But if not, we can wait until we get Eve and the others to come through. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're feeling extra special, you can join the Mage Army by clicking the join button. You can catch me on Discord. Link will be in the description. And if you want to help support this channel, you can find a link for that in the description as well. As always, I will see you all next time.